Welcome into the Fantasy Guides podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher, and I am joined today by the owner, the operator of Fantasy Guides and FantasyGuides.com, Stephen Rippey, and no one else, normally joined by our spreadsheet wizard, AJ Cleaver, but he's getting married. So Stephen said, yeah, you're not showing up. Your wife will kill you. Stephen, let's flip the page. Let's talk receivers. Going through it in the same fashion that we just did with running backs. We'll go through our top 6, then 12, then 18, 24. That's how math works. So starting off right off the rip, the guys we're excited about, no-brainer, must-starts. Wide receiver 1, CeeDee Lamb against the Lions. 2 is Chase against the Giants. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown, fresh off the bye against the Cowboys. Malik Neighbors versus the Bengals. Drake London versus the Panthers. And then A.J. Brown against the Cleveland Browns. Steven, I think I have to bring up, are you the Drake London fan club leader now? You have Drake London now at number 5. Tell me about that.
I mean, we just saw Kirk Cousins throw for 500 passing yards. So if he's going to throw that much, it's hard to not be excited about it. They are 6.5-point favorites. The Panthers giving up their top 10 in fantasy points allowed to the position, and they're giving up the 4th most receiving touchdowns. He's had a touchdown, was it 3 weeks in a row that Drake London scored? So, yeah, I just like what I'm seeing with that connection. He's had 3 out of 4 weeks. He's had a touchdown. So, yeah, he's probably the hottest wide receiver in football, or at least one of them right now. So that's why I'm high on him. Another one I'm super high on this week, Andrew. Oh, you haven't got that far. We'll stop at the top 6. He's the one that stands out there.
Yeah, no, everyone else there, you've been there before. You belong there. We're excited for you. Not much more to say. Let's get in a little bit before after that. And one stands out right away. Wide receiver 7, Stephon Diggs against the New England Patriots. Then DJ Moore against the Jags. Garrett Wilson against the Buffalo Bills at 9. Deontay Johnson versus the Falcons. Jaden Reed against the Cardinals. And finally at 12, Chris Godwin against the New Orleans Saints. Who stands out here? Who are you excited to talk about?
Super excited to talk about Diggs and Moore. Diggs, he's now the number 1 with Nico Collins on IR. Andrew, I may end up winning this Nico versus Diggs thing, and I don't care that he got injured.
It doesn't count, man.
It does. I'm not. It's total points. I don't know if we ever decided if it was total or PPR, but I'm deciding now it's total. No,
he holds the power. He's the boss, man. He holds the power to do such things.
No, he's CJ Stroud, Stephon Diggs, 7-point favorites. Yeah, he should do well there. He's toasted the Patriots when he was in Buffalo. No reason to think he can't do it this week. Also, I know they've got, what's his name? Is it Gonzalez? Chris Gonzalez. I know
Christian
he's good.
Gonzalez.
Yeah, but he's like the only one on that defense that kind of worries me. And this offense is too good. So I think he's going to have a good game. DJ Moore, I love this week because they play the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we've talked about give up the most fantasy points to the position, the most receiving yards, and the 3rd most receptions. So love DJ Moore in this one. And then I guess Deontay Johnson, where is he on consensus? Because it feels high to me, but maybe it's not.
Deontay Johnson is the wide receiver 20 in consensus, so you're quite a bit higher.
Oh, wow. I don't know why they got in that low. Usage is still there. They are 6.5-point underdogs. This Atlanta team does not scare me too much. They're giving up the 7th most receptions to the position. That's what he does. He just catches a lot of passes, so I'm not scared off by last week's game. I think they go right back to him in this one. So, yeah, no, I'm high on him.
I mean, the reason they're lower on Deontay Johnson is it's Deontay Johnson. No one gets excited about Deontay Johnson. We talked about this on our trade show. But
usually fantasy people do. You know, it's usually like analyst types. I feel like he's got a lot of truthers.
They're out there somewhere, but apparently they're not on Fantasy Pros ECR. But yeah, Deontay Johnson, fire him up. He's low-key a wide receiver 1 profile with all the volume that he gets. A guy I really like this week, Jaden Reed. I just love him every week. He is so the guy there. Everyone else, it's every year in fantasy football. If there's a crowded wide receiver room, the answer is almost always the highest drafted guy. That's the one you want. I mean, I learned this through the years ago with the Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods question. You remember with the LA Rams before Cooper Kupp took off? We're like, take the higher. You can take either one. They're both fine. Actually, get the later guy because better value. It's the best receiver. Nico Collins this year, Jaden Reed this year. Those are both really shown true. Love you, Jaden Reed.
Wait. Wasn't Nico was the first one?
Yeah. You always want the higher taken
Oh,
guy.
I thought you were saying. I gotcha. Okay.
No. People always say get the value. Take the one that's going later and then let it play
You
out.
know why? Because it's such an easy cop out.
Yes, it is.
I
You
think that's
want
why they do it.
you
Yeah.
want the bargain deal. I'm going to get the one that's cheaper. That's how I live my life.
I've joked before that like so many analysts would never draft a player because it's like, oh, I only like him if he's going, in the second
Yep.
round. It's like they're not going in the second round. So do you want him or not?
Exactly. Cop out answers is what we're all about.
Yeah.
And we're going to cop out on our wide receiver 13 here because he's playing on Thursday night. No need to talk about him. DK Metcalf, but we love him still. Zay Flowers.
I gotta be higher than consensus on Zay.
On Mr. Zay Flowers, let me vet that real quick. You're 6 spots higher. So we're 4 spots higher, actually. A little bit higher. You're excited about that one.
That's quite a bit when you get into the top 14 or so. What do you think? He's playing the Commanders. I'm not buying into. I don't care what they did against Cleveland. Deshaun Watson looks awful. Just like he forgot how to play quarterback. I thought that the Browns would do something in that game. I mean, Cooper did score 10 points, and Jerry Jeudy did drop a touchdown, so they could have had salvageable days, but it was just awful. I could not believe how bad Deshaun Watson looked. Lamar Jackson looks amazing this season. I think Zay Flowers, he had a good week last week. He's just getting all of the targets in Baltimore. It's him and then a huge gap. And then it's like, which tight end this week's going to get some of the receptions, not named Mark Andrews. So I really like Zay Flowers in this one. Against Washington, giving up the second most receiving yards. They're still giving up a ton of points, even though they had back-to-back weeks of decent defense. I'm still not buying that their secondary is improved.
I mean, you just can't take the Browns don't count. When you play games against the Browns, throw everything out the window. It doesn't count. Deshaun Watson has not thrown for 200 yards this season. It's misery. He missed multiple wide open guys. You want to start Zay Flowers against in this matchup that 51.5. Offense is finally back in fantasy football.
It's going to be
and in the NFL.
It's going to be a fun one. They don't even have to travel for this one. I wish AJ was on the podcast because we could ask him from Baltimore, Maryland to DC, how far is that? It's got to be like 300 miles or fewer.
All right. I'll look this up as we get through the next portion of it. So as I was going through, this is our second set of this. Still our should start guys going from 12 to 18. Zay Flowers is 14. Marvin Harrison Jr. finds himself at 15 against the Packers. Brandon Ayuk going tonight is 16 against the Seahawks. Terry McLaurin, same matchup as Zay Flowers at 17. And Deebo Samuel rounds out again playing the Seahawks tonight. So are you just as excited about Terry McLaurin as you were for Zay Flowers in the same matchup?
I am excited about him. And Andrew, I was looking it up while you were talking, so I didn't hear a lot of what you had to say.
Excellent. But it was ignore me.
But it looks like it's only 40 minutes. I don't know if that's correct or not. That's nothing.
Right. It's all traffic too. I bet the train's quicker.
That's nothing. Okay.
Take the train.
Terry McLaurin. I'd like him a lot too for many of the same reasons. Because Baltimore giving up the third most receiving touchdowns, the third most receiving yards. They're giving up the fifth most fantasy points. They're giving up a ton of receptions. This game, highest over-under on the week, 51.5. You got to love the receivers. Terry McLaurin almost had a monster game last week. He had a long, what should have been, I don't know if it should have been, almost was a touchdown reception of like 50 yards. Got tackled just inside the 3-yard line. It looked like he was going to score on that one. Would have put up a really big game. Maybe he gets that big game on this one. So yeah, I love the receivers in this one.
Little nugget off of NFL Pro, which is if you get NFL Plus Premium, you get NFL Pro, not a sponsor. Great plug though. They have these little tidbits. The Ravens, absolutely dreadful at stopping downfield passes. They're giving up the second most EPA, expected points allowed, against the deep pass. And we saw Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels connecting. Jaden Daniels is the best deep passer in the NFL. It's actually technically the second best, but he's been absolutely incredible. I hope that connection hits. I will admittedly say it's high variance. It's been a lot of deep passes that have been hitting for Terry, but we just saw Jamar Chase and T. Higgins do it. Let's hope that they can do it as well.
Yep. I hope this is one of those games where it's like everything you can do and you see Jaden Daniels like running around making plays, and then Lamar Jackson does I can do better. And then so I just hope it's just like back and forth, like him trying to show he's the next Lamar Jackson and Lamar Jackson being like, hold on, kid. I'm still the best at all of those things.
They're playing horse out there. Show them
Yeah.
who's boss, Lamar. Your ripe old age of what, like 27? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, they're probably not even that much age
Actually,
difference.
yeah, he's a bit of an older prospect.
They overlapped in college. That's got to be a fact. All right, last guy I'll bring up here in this range because a lot of the other guys are going on Thursday night anyway. Marvin Harrison Jr. Are you a little bit worried? He's had over 50 yards in 2 games. They've been some big games, a lot of touchdowns. What are your thoughts on Marvin Harrison this week and going forward?
Yeah, he's starting to. When I watched him, he's kind of looking like early career Drake London. He looks like every
I know
time
what you mean by that. You mean you can't separate? That's what you're trying to say.
every time they throw to him, it's like he's high pointing a ball where the defender's right there. It doesn't seem like Malik Neighbors. I mean, when he's getting it, it's like there's no one around him. He's just so quick. Whereas I'm not seeing that right now out of Marvin Harrison. So I don't know if it's. I mean, we never saw this guy test. We have no idea how he would have tested. Same thing with Drake London. That guy never tested. So we had no idea what to expect. So it's kind of making me feel like he's the next Drake London, maybe a better version, but I'm still not worried about it. I've got him as a wide receiver 15. I mean, I was recommending him as a top 10 wide receiver, so I've cooled off on that a little bit, but you got to just chase the targets. He's had 7, 6, 11, and 8 over the last 4 weeks. Those targets, Kyler Murray's an accurate quarterback. Eventually they connect, so that's why I'm not overly panicking on him.
Yeah, exactly that. He's had 6+ targets in all but one game.
Yep.
You just
and in that one game, never mind. The first game he didn't do good. Sorry.
No, he did nothing. Then everyone clamored about it. Then they started chucking in the ball like it was nothing.
Yeah.
So Marv, get out of that funk. Get back into our lineups. We're willing to just at least trust him this week. We'll see if that changes going forward. More matchups. Getting into the back half of our, you're still probably starting these guys tier. I need to come up with more creative names than that. But wide receiver 19, Mike Evans against the New Orleans Saints. Thoughts on this one? I want to hear about it. Odds are he gets thrown out of the game, always gets in a fight. We'll get to that later. Wide receiver 20 is T. Higgins against the Giants. 21, Devontae Smith against the Browns. Then Rashid Shaheed against the Buccaneers. Chris Olave against the Buccaneers right behind him. And rounding out our top 24, one stud rookie Brian Thomas against the Chicago Bears. Steven, do you think Mike Evans actually plays a full game against Marshawn Lattimore and the Saints?
That should be an underdog prop. Does he finish the game? Over under like 3/4 or something.
I'm taking the under.
Yeah, seriously. You know, Lattimore has had, for the most part, does shut down Mike Evans. That's why I've got him ranked where he is. I feel like it's every 1 out of every 3 games Mike Evans gets the better of Lattimore. I'd have to look at their game logs, but for the most part, Lattimore does play well against him. This is in New Orleans, so that does have an effect for me. That's the only reason I'm lower, and it's really hard to look at because Lattimore hasn't been healthy yet. He played last week, but for the most part this season he hasn't played. The Saints are giving up the 5th most receptions and the 6th most receiving yards, but again they're without Lattimore in this one, for early parts of the season. So I'm just a little bit lower on Mike Evans because of that, because of the matchup. I think this is more of a Chris Godwin game. So that's, yeah. I think there's a good chance he gets you like 2 catches for 37 yards.
At least looking back over the last 2 seasons, Mike Evans' best performance against New Orleans is 10 points.
Yeah.
He had that once last year.
I know he's had big games before, but and he could have a bigger game in this one only because with the Saints having the rookie quarterback, the Bucs could just keep getting the ball and keep getting the ball back, and it just gives him more opportunity. But it's a tough matchup.
I gotta ask. We talked about Kamara. It's a little bit different with the receivers here. You have Rashid Shaheed over Chris Olave, which I see is just a slight against me as a Chris Olave lover. But what do you think of both of them with Spencer Rattler against the Buccaneers?
I'm just nervous altogether. Like, I don't think Carr is a bad quarterback. I really don't think that Spencer Rattler is going to be an upgrade. I am not of that opinion. He's a rookie. Where was he drafted? Very late. He wasn't a highly drafted quarterback. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried about it. I think that at least Shaheed, we've seen it with him so far this season. We just keep waiting for Olave. It's just not happening. And Shaheed's getting volume. It's not like the guy for the Colts, Alex Pierce, your boy.
Oh yeah, greatest receiver in the NFL.
It's not like it's 3 catches and 2 of them going for touchdowns. He's 9 targets, 11 targets in the last 2 weeks. So I think they know he's a playmaker. I think they'll do creative ways to try to get him the ball, maybe try to manufacture some touches. And I think he can do more with those than Olave can. It's not really a slight on Olave. It's just Shaheed's just so dynamic with the ball. That's why I just kind of copped out and I went Shaheed 22, Olave 23.
To your point, it's less about Rashid or Olave being bad, and it's just Rashid Shaheed being good. He's had 15 or more points in all but one game. That one game was a goose egg, but it's just been incredible. Olave's been good on his own right. Other than last week, he's kind of sandwiched the first week and this most recent week. In between those, 12 points, 20 points, 16 points. It's not going to be better with Rattler. I do like Rattler saying, hey, I don't want to go crazy here. I'm just going to throw it at Chris Olave. Yeah. I'm all for that. Do that. Go for it as a rosterer of Mr. Olave.
I wonder if the defensive coordinator for Tampa Bay heard any of that.
No, he didn't. The Saints do have the third best matchup at wide receiver this week against Tampa. Schedule adjusted. Hopefully
they are. Well, did you watch the game last Thursday night against Atlanta? There's reason to be excited about anyone passing against them, but yeah.
Spencer Rattler, golden arm kid, hopefully chucks it downfield. That's what he's known for. Blindly. It's Jameis Winston-esque willingness to throw downfield. Hopefully it hits. Steven, what other guys in this range stand out to you?
I think, where did we end at, Andrew?
At 24? The top 24, so 18 to 24.
I think that Brian Thomas could be in for a tougher week. So people that have seen him just toast the Colts last week, and I don't remember who it was the week before, but just temper expectations a little bit for him. Chicago's got a much better defense. It is on the road too, which I think that makes it a little bit more difficult. And then, we get to see Devonta Smith back now, so I'm excited to see what happens there. That guy's a good receiver, but it is a tougher matchup there as well.
Yeah, Brian Thomas has the third hardest matchup of the week there against the Chicago Bears. They have an incredible top-notch corner there in Jalen Johnson. But Brian Thomas did have 20 points each of the last 2 weeks on 8 targets and 9 targets. Brian Thomas still start because, man, his targets are valuable too. They chuck it, and he's good.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's got a quarterback that's got an arm. That can get it to him.
Most quarterbacks do have at least one arm. It is usually a qualification they must have.
Yeah, fact.
Steven, let's round out the receivers here. What other guys really stand out to you as either as a great start or someone who you're really fading this week?
So I think Tank Dell, for a lot of the reasons I just mentioned with Stephon Diggs, I think he could be good in this one against New England. Problem is that the only thing that worries me is, does this game get out of hand early and the Patriots can't do much and they don't need to throw. So that's the only thing there. I really like George Pickens this week against the Raiders. And then Amari Cooper. I mean, I don't know with Deshaun Watson. I think this could be a buy low. I think there's a chance Watson gets benched. He has been so bad, so horrifically bad, that I think they could just go full Jameis. Wouldn't you want to play for Jameis? He's way more fun. That could be very good for Amari. So anyway, the Eagles giving up a ton of points to receivers, giving up the third most fantasy points. Amari Cooper did have 10 points last week. And I had mentioned last week about how he was really close to having some other big games. He had the 82-yarder called back. He had another touchdown he dropped. So he hasn't been great. He's been dropping a lot, but he's still a good receiver. I think against Philadelphia, especially being 8.5-point underdogs, they're going to be throwing. So I think Amari's startable in this one.
Amari Cooper has had 8 or more targets in every single game this season. It's just either every week he drops a pass. Every week Deshaun Watson or a penalty takes away a long pass.
Yeah.
It's infuriating.
I think the only other ones I would mention is the other Chicago wide receivers. They're more like, you're going to be right on Keenan Allen, Andrew. I don't know if he's just fat Keenan and that's it.
Too many hot dogs. He went to Chicago, the deep dish, the hot dogs, they get you. We got the best of us.
Dude, so I'm in Texas now, and I just ordered from a Chicago pizzeria. I didn't realize it was getting Chicago style. The amount, one piece, and that's it. It's so filling. I believe it. If I ate 2 slices, I was done for the day. So I could believe why Keenan Allen might be fat Keenan now. But I just think the matchup's there for him and Odunze, but it feels more DFS than actual put in your lineup. But for people that are super desperate, the matchup's there.
Yeah, Keenan, buddy, it's okay. One last matchup. Go ahead.
And the matchup's there for the Tennessee wide receivers as well.
I was about to ask, one last matchup I want to at least dive into a little bit since we got a little bit of time here in the wide receiver segment. Josh Downs popped up on the practice report. We'll see what happens there. Let's assume he plays. Michael Pittman's on the IR. That is going to the IR. I don't know if he's been officially placed there yet. He's not playing. So Josh Downs is all of a sudden the wide receiver 1 for Anthony Richardson, who's going to be a go this week. And then also on the other side of the ball, we have Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins, which is against the Colts in one of the best matchups you could possibly ask for. Go ask Brian Thomas. Go ask Nico Collins. Go ask all of these guys who just destroyed my Colts and made me very sad. Which one of those guys would you like the most start? Josh Downs, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. Rank those three.
I would go Ridley, Hopkins. Although I'm looking at my rankings now. I don't have them that way. But I might God, that's tough because Downs is the number 1 guy. Dang it. I think I'm going to re-rank Ridley, Downs, Hopkins.
Ridley has had 1 game this season.
I know.
More than 8 points.
And guess what? I told people to bench him that week.
Oh no, the one
it was against the Jets.
Yeah,
the one game he decides to score 2 touchdowns against the Jets. Like, that's why I hate fantasy football, Andrew. Why do we play this stupid game?
To be fair, now I'm looking at it. DeAndre Hopkins has had 1 game of more than 5 points all season long.
Yeah, no, it's been bad. It's all Will Levis. Will Levis sinks all ships. This is just matchup. This is just Indy. Sorry, Andrew. It's just Indy. I think that's the only reason. And they had the bye week. At least for Hopkins, this could be a good thing to get a little more healthy because we know he had that MCL tear. My problem with Downs, he's easily the most explosive player out of all of these. The matchup's been not great for Tennessee. I mean, they shut down Tyreek Hill. They've shut down the Green Bay wide receivers, albeit with Malik Willis behind the quarterback. They did pretty decent against Garrett Wilson, and they did decent against the Bears wide receivers week 1. So that's my worry with Downs. I think he's a good wide receiver. I don't think he's a special wide receiver. And I'm more excited. I like him a little bit better with Flacco. I don't love him as much with Richardson.
I think Downs is a special wide receiver. The issue is that he's so short that when AR throws the ball horrifically off target, his little arms can't reach it. He's a little dinosaur. But I still love me some Josh Downs. That'll wrap up wide receivers for us, though. Again, we'll be moving on now to QBs and tight ends. If you want to catch that on YouTube, go grab our next clip.